we'll stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, if you will.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Don't be doing that.
I'm trying not to.
Okay, hopefully you've all read your agenda and minutes. I hear a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Gary, would you like, we have a public comments time slot. Would you like to get up and say anything, or?
I think the only thing I'd like to say is thank you for the opportunity to be here today and to meet all of you. It's been a great experience to come here to Garden City. You know, in Hutchinson, I've watched the community grow over the years, and I really admire the work that's been done and the partnerships that have made that happen. And so during my time here, which is going to be fairly short, I hope to make some connections. I've known Matt for a long time, worked with him, and so I want to try to help strengthen and improve those partnerships between the county and the community partners while I'm here. And we've got a lot of projects going on at the, we got a pretty full agenda at the county, so I want to try to help to make it a smooth transition for your new county administrator, hopefully in the next few months. So
Okay.
thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Welcome to Garden
Welcome.
City. Okay, you're up, Lana.
I probably didn't need that, but that's okay. Good morning.
Morning.
So we do have a couple of new prospects that just came up this week that are not listed yet, simply because we haven't had the opportunity to sit down with them yet to determine how viable the prospect is, so we haven't added them to our listings yet. We have a project moving forward with ICON. The City Commission is continuing to go through the steps to get their Community Improvement District and their Tax Increment Finance District in place. So we continue to help with that. We had a call last week with the developer on that project, and he's asked for some additional assistance from us in helping with bond placement. And so we'll help make some introductions there and get him in front of some banks and private investors that would have an interest in buying those bonds. Commercially, we have several prospects that are moving forward. Grant is working with some of them. He can talk a little bit about that. And others, we're just in the process of finding buildings and spaces for them. We have pretty limited inventory still on commercial and retail frontage buildings and restaurant buildings for sure. So we'll continue to work with those folks, and hopefully with some of the conversations we're having with developers and with some private landowners, we'll get some more inventory available. We do have some various investment groups that are interested in doing build-to-suits, which is encouraging. That would be very beneficial for a lot of these entrepreneurial efforts. So certainly if you know of folks who would have an interest in putting together an investment group or doing the investment on their own, we'd certainly be happy to work with them in connecting them with future tenants for those buildings. Also working on with a couple of different folks that have an interest in being franchisees, but don't even really have a franchise that they've selected. So we reached out to Ricky Hayes, who is our retail recruiter, and he was able to connect us with a gentleman who does matchmaking, for lack of a better word. He does matchmaking with franchises and potential franchisees. So Shannon and I will follow up with a call with him and get a better feel for how we can connect folks through him and what that would look like. So fingers crossed that we get some of those put together. But again, we need buildings, so if you know of anybody interested in building buildings, have them reach out. Housing, we we do continue to see progress on housing. The MIH project slated for the Palace property is turning in plans, working with their engineers, so hopefully their hope is to start by the end of April. That seems pretty aggressive right now, but hopefully that works out. We can tell you that the distribution project on the Western Kansas corridor closed. They got their land purchased and they have had a pre-construction meeting already, so we should see some distribution center construction happening out at the Western Kansas corridor. It'll be located just as you go around the curve inside of the development, so catty corner to the south and east from the new Maverick that's up there.
Can you say who that is, or is that announced yet? No. Okay.
I mean, I don't know why we can't, because like I said, it's all closed and they have a
Yeah.
pre-construction meeting, so it's an Amazon distribution center.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wondered, because I know county commission was talking about a pre-construction meeting, and I was wondering who that was.
Yes, that's who that was. Additional housing projects, we have had some conversations with a couple of groups that are interested in doing some, maybe some manufactured type housing, and some other, the kind of stuff you guys looked at when you were in Vegas, the component built
Right.
type housing. So we'll continue to work those projects as we've been very clear. We'll take any and all. We need all the housing we can get. So we're happy to work with folks and identify locations that work for some of those alternative construction model homes. But again, anybody who has an interest, please reach out. We're happy to sit down and talk through those opportunities. On that line, I have had a couple of people, Vicki just yesterday brought it up, but I've had a couple of people over the last month or so asking about the encampments that we're seeing show up, for lack of a better word. Lance has also brought it up and had some concerns about it. For those of you who aren't aware, there's kind of an encampment, for lack of a better way to say that, down on the riverbed. I've heard, folks from kind of all angles of that, why don't we just tell them to leave? Well, it's not that simple. That is public land, and there are questions about who would have authority to tell them to leave. It is not county-owned property. So whether you would engage the Department of Interior or the Army Corps of Engineers or the State Wildlife and Parks or you name it, nobody really knows for sure how that would go. But I will tell you that I think it's important for folks to recognize that there's a lot of reasons why we see that happening. It's we do certainly have unhoused folks in our community, undoubtedly, but we're also seeing this on a national level. There's actual movements around what they call stealth camping and off-grid camping on public lands. That's very common. It's happened in Europe for a very long time. They've dealt with it. It's just kind of caught on here for whatever reason. It's a trend. There's communication channels. They have social media where they're talking to each other about, hey, here's a place where we can go. And so certainly happy to sit at the table and have the conversations with that. My concern obviously is that there are undoubtedly folks in those areas who probably do need assistance of some kind, whether that be financial health, mental health. So I don't take it lightly that they're there, but I think it's also important to recognize there's multiple reasons, and so it may not be as simple as send this service agency out there to deal with them. It probably needs to be a much more comprehensive approach to how we would do that, and I would anticipate that if we chose to address it, we would need to address it from all policy standpoints to ensure that we manage the situation appropriately and in the best interest of.
I do have a little bit of an update. Bob Lewis has been leading the charge on this in Topeka, and he's actually planning on, in May, trying to get the city, the county, anybody interested together and try and find a solution. So we'll see how it turns out.
Yes, and again, I would just say, probably not just a legal, it, yeah. Gonna require a
Right.
full approach to it, and probably not a hammer. The issue is obviously, there are many people who enjoy access to Bureau of Land Management properties and wilderness areas and those kind of things. So my biggest concern would be that somebody would try to legislate the issue without a comprehensive understanding of it, and it would actually be a detriment to those folks who enjoy those things in a different manner. So
Are they receiving public assistance from anyone, like Emmaus? I mean, where do they,
some folks
how do
may
they
be.
get their food?
Again, not all of these folks are unhoused involuntarily, right? There's a movement of this
Yeah.
type of living. So they're choosing. Many
Oh, yeah.
people are choosing to
Sure.
live like this.
Yeah.
And many have the resources. I mean, I encourage you to get out on YouTube, take a look at stealth camping. You can do a search on pretty much, anything you want to look at, off-grid camping, those kinds of things. It's a lifestyle, right? There are people who are saying, here's how you capture rainwater. That might be a challenge here, but here's how you get rainwater. Here's how you take advantage of solar. And I mean, so not everybody that is in there may be in need of any service. It may just be a lifestyle choice for them. So again, I wouldn't want us to ignore the situation and not make contact with those who may have actual needs that should be being met by some social service agency. But I also wouldn't want us to assume that we know why everybody is there and choosing to be there. And we do have a housing shortage. We won't forget that part. It's very likely that many of those folks are in the workforce, and that is how they're choosing to live. So,
Are they keeping the places cleaned up?
well, interestingly, that is one of the tenets of the movement, is that you leave no
Okay.
you leave no proof that you were there, if you will. I think that's been a challenge. This has been going on in southern Colorado for years. They've had these encampments showing up. Typically, they're around water sources. If they're waiting on water to come down the Arkansas, they might wait a while, but that is pretty common for them to do that. The upper Northwest has seen this for a very long time too. They're again typically in places we all consider to be more treeful and water and those things, but it's not not anything really new, just kind of new to us, I think. So just again, I would urge folks to exercise caution, and if you hear from folks who have complaints or concerns about it, just be mindful that there's more to it than a simple send the sheriff out and run them off, if you will. So, all right, lots and lots of meetings. March was a very busy month. We have been assisting, if you remember, former Commissioner Dries was here last month and thanked us for our assistance with the new jail project. We continue to work on that. We've put together a scoring matrix for them, as well as just a kind of comprehensive review of all of the sites that they have considered and are considering for the jail site, so that committee has an objective way to review those sites and make the best decision going forward. And then we'll also be helping with putting together the sales tax initiative. That is their preferred method of funding that new facility is to put a sales tax in place. So we will be assisting with that also. And then K-State Garden City, we've had some really good momentum going forward on that. The K-State has a new program that they'll bring out as part of this that is kind of a broad agricultural degree that allows folks to work really in any sector of ag. They've already approved it. It's with the Board of Regents now for their approval. They see no reason why that won't get approved, and anticipate that will happen at the April meeting of the Board of Regents, and then they'll be able to get that program in place. beyond that, K-State has made a determination that they will allow up to 75 credit hours to be transferred in for their bachelor's programs now, which is huge. That allows even some of our students who are already maybe in their second year at the community college and would have been bumping up against that maximum transfer. Now we've got a little grace period, so even if the program they want from K-State isn't currently available here for the 4-year, they could stay engaged in school, take another 15, 20 credit hours to position themselves, and those credits would transfer. So our conversation, Stuart was able to be there this week, and our conversation was really around how do we keep them in the education stream so we don't lose anybody, or have them drop out and then have to try to find them and get them back in. So I was really pleased with that conversation.
Do the dual credit courses that are offered in the high school level, do those also part of that 75
They do.
credit?
Yeah, the dual credit courses are fully accredited community college classes. So yeah,
That's
it is getting more and more common that we have students graduating
It should be a
high
big,
school
big
with
benefit for
just
the-
about having their associates.
Big benefit for the college too.
It will be a big benefit. And we are just incredibly blessed. We say it a lot, we'll say it again. We are incredibly blessed with our community college, with our leadership there, and with the faculty. It's just watching the other community colleges across the state, it's very evident that our commitment to the students is way above what their peer facilities are. So we're excited about it. The Newman University stuff is going well. They've done some expansion of programming, and they've got their enrollment is I don't know, at least half again what their goal was for this period. So it's very cool to watch that going well. So
I know the enrollment is up 16% this fall for spring.
woohoo!
Wow, that's huge.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Who's the next highest community college?
I had no idea.
Johnson County?
It's
maybe?
I don't look at
Johnson
that.
County is the highest. It's Johnson,
Yeah.
Butler, and then I think Garden City is third or fourth. There may be one more ahead of them. I can't
But
remember.
percentage-wise, ours is probably first, isn't it?
Growth,
Growth, yeah.
I
Well,
would
we've been
I would guess.
in the plus since, well, all through the pandemic and everything else, we
Mhm.
had an increase. May not have been much, but it was an increase.
Yep.
Good deal.
So stuff coming up, we do have the KDOT meeting this morning, and then that, as a reminder, is in the grandstand meeting room at the fairgrounds. And
What time is it?
9
9
o'clock.
You gonna go in?
Yep.
Are you?
And then I will be in DC April 6th through the 9th, which hopefully we have some good conversations there. That's part of our Southwest Kansas delegation that goes up there every year. So hopefully we have some good activity that comes out of that. There is a career showcase coming up on April 2nd that's in town. If you guys had an interest in stopping by to see how those are going and what that looks like, if you haven't had a chance to be to one yet, this is a good opportunity since it is here in town. It's at the exhibition building, and should be very cool. Those have been really well attended, so pretty exciting. Other than that, the state treasurer did ask me to serve on their Women and Money event planning committee. So last year was the first one. They held that in Kansas City, and the one this year they're hosting in Wichita. So their goal is to move them around the state, and they're just really designed around bringing in speakers and programming to encourage women to be more engaged in their finances and to create wealth, if you will. So it's been kind of fun serving on that committee. And I think that's all I have for you, unless you have questions for me.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Next up, we'll hear from Steve Cottrell, Special Projects Director.
Good morning. Before I get started, I will say that I worked with Gary Meager in Golden, Colorado back in the late 80s.
Oh, wow. That's
He was a detective and I
Moving on.
He was a lot younger than me.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm done. I know my report says we had 3 RFPs from the Department of Commerce, but we got one yesterday at 12:46 p.m. And I forget everything about it other than the fact I'm pitching the site at the airport at the old Garst building. So more about that one next one. Project Viking only needed a 510,000 square foot building for thermal forming. 230 employees, $146 million investment. High power needs a small 10,000 square foot metal fab building, employing 50 with a $2 million investment. And Project Twin was 150,000 square foot food processor, likely a bakery based on the information. 170 people and $30 million. So, we'll see how things go. And then I did work on a small industrial park on Mansfield Road, out at the old Cottonwood mobile home park. City Commission meeting on March 4th, the report was February employments were 2,436. So we're continuing to be ahead of previous years. As Alana pointed out, they created a community improvement district for ICON, which is the extra sales tax to help pay for infrastructure in the building. They raised water and sewer rates, so get ready. They approved construction manager at risk for the police department facility. And we're going to build a 1 million gallon water tower at the Jameson Energy Center. That was approved. Remax 1 at 501 North Main, which is the old Adams Real Estate location, got approved for Downtown Development Fund financing. And they annexed the Morris substation and a triangular track right to the south. It's right up to the old Jenny Barker road line. And they approved a bid for expansion of Bellevue Cemetery in that new park. On the 18th, they rezoned Sunset Terrace to R1, 2 Buttes to R3. They canceled the DFA lease and then turned around and sold the same property to the DFA. Interesting process. Started a sales tax exemption for an R3 project at 11th and Thompson on the Orozco properties. Authorized applications to KDOT for 2 resurfacing projects on Main Street, Walnut to Pine and Fulton to Depot. And then accepted bids for the extraneous flow basin and some other improvements at the wastewater treatment plant. The extraneous flow basin is a big hole in the ground, so when it rains and we get infiltration into the sewer, we have a place for the overflow to go without flooding out basements back up inside the city or the treatment plant. And they awarded a contract for a pathway and several road repairs and approved the 7 Brew replat. We'll skip the commercial because that's already been talked about. And I worked on a whole bunch of plans for single family, multifamily, and mobile homes at multiple sites throughout the city. So, as you've all been waiting for, what is today? It is Iwo Jima Day. Raised the flag on Mount Suribachi today in 1945. It's a little red wagon day for those of you that had little red wagons when you were a kid. Good hair day. That's why I got my hair cut yesterday. And this is a good one. Make up your own holiday. Manatee Appreciation Day. I love it. And if your name is Landon or Wayne, today is your day. Nougat Day, spinach, and whole grain sampling day.
Okay. That one I can
There's
handle.
a whole bunch of things for you to chew on. That's all I've got.
Steve, before you go, some of these concept plans that you've been working on, are they from developers that have been involved for some time in Garden City? I mean,
Some of them, yes.
okay, so they're still interested.
And some of them are private landowners who don't actually have a developer, so
Okay,
we serve kind of as, here's some ideas for your land, and then we can connect them with folks who are looking for those projects.
questions for Steve? Thank you, sir. Okay, next up, Scott Ost, Communications Director.
Good morning.
Morning, Scott.
Social media this month, we had some good response to the Youth Entrepreneur Challenge event of a couple of weeks ago that Grant was involved in. As you can see, the website was about average looking at things. Facebook was up about 20%. Twix was up maybe 5%. Other things that people looked at included Icon. People are still very interested in Icon and finding out what's going on with that. There was a lot of sports last month with the state championships and state basketball and things like that. Also, as an aside, I worked on a special project that's coming up in the fall, probably. Touch base with some people who are doing some similar things. I don't think we're ready to announce yet, but Lana may have already talked to you about what we're planning, so that's about it as far as media and social media.
Questions for Scott? Okay, thank you, sir. Next up, we'll hear from Grant Linenberger, Business Development.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, I have a client 9242. After not hearing from this client for a while, they finally reached back out and said that they started their business. They were trying to create a partnership within their business that wasn't panning out, so they changed their model and they opened on their own. Client 10242. This client finally received their liquor license from the Kansas Department of Revenue, so now they're back in business. Client 11241. This client was held up by SBA. They were looking for a feasibility study to try and prevent the client from having to pay that expense. We're reworking on the business plan and the finances, putting more detail into their plan on expected costs, pricing strategies, and being sure to show where facts are sourced and back up their expected revenue. Client 3253. I had an initial meeting with this client over the phone. They are seeking capital to finish final renovations of a partially open business that already has a loan down on it. I gave them a checklist of things to provide for me to be able to send to Great Plains Development, see what possible funding options would be available. Client 3252. I had my initial meeting with this client. They have a multi-purpose business in mind and need help securing a building they had in mind for it. Currently, they are in the idea phase with a few possibilities to decide on. I've had them start on their written business plan and financial workbook. Currently, they have sent me a rough draft of their financial workbook, and I'm setting them in soon to go over their progress. Client 3253. I had an initial meeting with this client, and they are currently working part-time from home on a business that they have started. It's starting to grow bigger than what they expected, and they created an LLC for it. They're wanting to eventually build their own building and move into that building to expand their business. Their goal is to be full-time in that position, and they need help getting expected financials in order and with capital for startup funds. So I gave them a written business plan and a financial workbook to get started on. And YEC is now complete. Went great. The winner was Cozy Co Candles. Adrian Leva and Julissa KEC, which is Kansas Entrepreneur Challenge, and that will be on K-State campus in their union. That's April 17th. And so hopefully they can go and win there. And that's what I have for you.
Questions for Grant? Thanks, sir. Next up, we'll hear from Shannon Dick, Director of Analytics.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, we have something a little bit, I don't know, everything I do is fun. So I was gonna say more fun than normal, but I think everything is fun when we're talking about data. So this is an interesting application. It's looking at it. The title of it is called March Madness: AI Deployment in a Measurable Setting. So what are we doing here? Well, if you know, every year our office, or anybody who stops by the office in the time we have them fill out a bracket for the NCAA basketball tournament, the winner gets a coffee. So I provide that coffee, so I try to win, so I don't have to pay anybody for a coffee. This year we also ran some AI brackets. Have AI fill out some brackets and stuff. And then Lana's like, well, you should do a presentation on it. And really, it's a good thing. So when I say deploying AI in a measurable setting, what's really nice about this question is we can measure how good AI is doing because we know outcomes. We know what those outcomes are. We can do something beforehand, have it do something and see how they go. It's a established everything. I mean, it's really easy to measure what's going on, and the idea space is pretty bounded by real expectations, but there's a bunch of data online that the AIs can go research. So it's a really neat way to measure how AI is progressing and the pitfalls and stuff like that. So here's the tournament so far. There's been 48 games. I highlighted where the underdogs have won because those are the hard games to predict, right, when an underdog wins. So far, the total possible correct games that we could have is 48. So let's go through, look at how some humans do, look at how the AI is doing, and we can discuss a little bit. Right now, the leader in everybody that's filled it out that's a person is Scott. He's got 36 correct. And it's also nice that he had his typed up because it looks a lot easier for everybody to read. But so if you're trying to do a cheat sheet, he's got Michigan State versus Duke in the final, Michigan State winning. So that's the leader that we have right now out of the people. I think my next slide is, so this is how all the humans are doing so far. So we got 27, a couple of 27 wins, 28, 30, 35, and 36. Okay, so there's a baseline.
So Scott is like way above.
Yeah, he's got 36 there, so we got 3 people, actually Lana and me, and somebody else is at 35. I don't remember who the other person is that's at 35 wins right now, but our 35 correct guesses. So that's what the distribution looks like for people right now. So if we go talk about what is AI, AI really is a very, very broad term, and it's really any sort of algorithm to make future predictions based off of historic data. And it's a lot of times what we're talking about now when we talk about AI, it's neural networks and large language models, which is, you type a question into the thing and it types things back to you. But AI really can be a lot of different mathematical models and stuff like that. So an example of a mathematical model, this is from University of Illinois. They have this website that you can go to and they update it every year. And what they do is they have a couple of mathematical models. You can hit generate back bracket. It's going to pick using their set of things to get what the bracket looks like. And you can just hit generate your bracket and then generate your bracket. What's really nice about these guys is they actually do a sum for me. So they go and say, hey, so far there's 36 games correct in this bracket that I generated here. So one form of AI is something like this, using some underlying mathematical model, probabilities of each of these teams winning and then picking go for it. I had there's a new thing called Manus, which is an AI thing, which we'll talk about in a minute. I had it go and run this simulation. I said 100 times, it stopped at 67. AI is kind of touchy like that. I had to go run this place 67 times, make a histogram, so this next thing is all done automatically for me. Took about 15 minutes, I just said go and run. And so here's running that mathematical model for Illinois, what it got. So you can see that there's a distribution like you'd expect to see, 36. So this is 30, the way this is 39 games correct, 38 38, 37, 36, 35. So there's a mathematical model. We can see a distribution after 60 some games, how that turns out, which is right around that peak. There's right around the peak that we see with the humans. But really what we're interested in is that large language model, AI version. So I'm going to go through a couple of those. So the first one, the one I think that most people commonly know about is ChatGPT. That's been the one that made the biggest splash in the AI space, at least in the world. So what I did with these is I went to those places, I asked, hey, I need you to do predictions. It would do predictions. I filled it out by hand and put up there. So far ChatGPT has 32 correct. If we go look at some interesting things about, which is the next slide, it was really easy to talk to it to make predictions for every round. I'd say, hey, can you go look what the bracket is? Can you go make the predictions for the first round? Sure. Make the second round and so forth. You can even see, I put a little bit of example output on the right there. It even went down and broke it down. Like the final four matchups is Auburn versus Texas Tech. Winner Auburn, and then it gave a little blurb. Like Texas Tech defense keeps it tight, but Auburn's athleticism, depth, and ability to keep pace and wear them down gives up. So it goes through and actually goes and gives a little explanation about all the different things. I also highlighted in all these, each of these AIs has some interesting things. If you go look in the UCLA versus Utah State, it predicted USC as the winner. And then Tennessee versus Wofford, it said Arizona State's going to win that game. Both were wrong, but it would have been impressive if they would have. If Arizona State would have won the game that it didn't even play in. So it's really interesting. It also gave me the ability to print out what the bracket will look like, where I don't have to enter it in myself. They could type it. So go ahead to the next. Here's how it made its bracket. Well, the middle is nice. You can read what's happening in the middle. It says Final Four, and it did that, but the rest of the stuff didn't do good. So did okay. It was at least able to understand what was going on and know what we were talking about basketball, gave a summary, but it did okay. Next one was Amazon Rufus. This is interesting because this AI is actually deployed to help you buy things on Amazon. But I'll go in a second what I had to do to get it to give me predictions. But it had 34 correct so far. If we go and look at the example of the stuff, it really didn't want to help do this task. And I had to resort to asking which team store I should stop at first, because that would be the one we think will win. Or I had to say, hey, pretend you're a sports commentator and tell me who you think would win. So you can it would kind of do that. So you can see at the blue is what I had to say. The blue is the first thing is I need you to help me pick the NCAA tournament bracket winners. It responds back, sorry, I can't help with picking winners from the NCAA tournament. I don't have access to information and all that stuff. And I said, well, as a sports commentator, which one was the likely outcome? And this was talking about Drake versus Texas Tech. So it says, I don't have enough information to predict the winner here. However, I can provide some stuff. So Texas Tech's a higher seed, all this stuff. So it has the information. It's blocking it, but it has the information, but you can wear it down and try to get. So finally I said, well, no, just tell me, where should I go? Should I go to the Drake store or should I go to the Texas Tech store first? Because I want to go make sure I go to that web store first. And it's like, oh, you want to go shopping? Okay. Yeah, well, Drake, if it pulls off the episode for Texas Tech, the team store will be the best place to immediately go after the game. Like, okay, you think Drake's going to win. So I had to go do this sort of thing. One of the weird little hiccups there is there's something with the word Mexico, well, in the context of New Mexico, in the brackets. It would completely reset the whole history and everything we're talking about and just start over again. So there's something about it, but it did like New Mexico. It just picked New Mexico all the way through for some reason. But it's interesting, and this is an example of there can even be guardrails put on AI. This thing is made to suggest products, and you can still, after wearing at it enough, get it to do something completely out of its own. It didn't do a very good job for picking winners, but that's Amazon's Rufus. Manus, this is the one that I think is going to be the one you're going to start to hear about a lot. So far, I had to do correct. It's done 35 correct guesses. You can see already it did some weird things. It had these two teams play each other in the finals and those two instead of these two. But what's really interesting about Manus, so if you go to the next slide, is it knows what's going on and everything, but it's an agent-based AI. So what it does that's different and I included there's a little pink and green thing there. It generates a to-do list to accomplish a task. And then it has a separate AI bot for each of those to-dos. So if one of it's research, there's a specific AI that's made to do research that it deploys. If it's to do mathematical models, like, okay, well, so we did this, now predict winners because we're going to use some math behind it. It will produce a different thing. And it has a to-do list, so it keeps everything in mind, what it needs to do. And then it goes out and does stuff. And it does really good at researching. And because it can have that really methodical way that it goes through everything. So it's a really good tool. This, I think, is the new thing. It's a closed beta right now. It's hard to get in. I applied to get in because I said I was going to keep cities and our community up to date on AI. So this is fulfilling my requirements of what I said to get into this closed beta. But it's a really powerful tool. One of the interesting things about Manus and about all AIs, they are really big on Duke. Duke across the board. So big on Duke that the Duke versus Arizona game coming up, Duke's going to win. Wisconsin, well, they said Wisconsin's BYU. BYU versus Alabama, Duke's also going to win. So, really excited about Duke, according to these guys. So, they're pretty good. Next one, Manus also said it could produce its own bracket. It did, a lot better than ChatGPT. Still missing rounds. It did a lot of skipping, but at least it kind of understood what a bracket would look like, right? So we're not there yet, but there's some progress. Next one, Microsoft Copilot, Correct 37, which is higher than the humans that we have so far. The interesting thing about Microsoft, and this we'll have a little bit of a discussion here in a second about what's going on here. 37 correct, remember that, that's a big number, right? That's the biggest yet. So go into that. The problem with Microsoft is it had absolutely no idea what was going on. It couldn't keep track of what rounds it's already predicted, what teams played each other, and we even had problems with it keeping track of even what year we were talking about and what sport. It started to make football predictions in the middle of just talking about all these other things. I don't have any examples from output from it, but it did some other interesting things. Like it has Houston winning here, Gonzaga winning here, Houston's back, it actually says it's going to win. Same thing at the top, it had Duke winning, and then Baylor winning, Arizona winning, and then Duke is back. And so it's doing this pretty naively. But this sort of picking obviously isn't what a human would do.
Right.
But in the end, it's not that bad of a method. Like if you think that there's going to be an underdog, but then you're like, you know what? I'm going to pick this underdog, but I really do think this higher seeded team has a better shot long term. It kind of makes sense to pick an underdog and then put that team back in there. I don't know if it's like you can do that in real, like if you go to ESPN and do a pick like this or some sports betting thing, if you could do it. I've never seen it, but it actually kind of makes sense. So that was really interesting. And then the last one here is Google Gemini. They also got 37 correct. What was interesting about that? I know that they did a good job. They kept track of everything. Go to the next slide. It knew what was going on. It gave a good description. There's the description. It went through and said all their things. Gemini used to not be very good. They're much better than they used to be. One interesting thing, or the really only interesting thing here, is we had Mizzou versus Drake. It picked Illinois. Wasn't playing. However, Illinois versus Xavier, it picked Mizzou. So it like switched, which is really interesting, like just in the middle of that. The other thing is I couldn't get it to do the initial picks. I just uploaded a blank bracket to it and said, here's the bracket, here's the tournament, go figure it out. And actually that was enough to get going. So really interesting. So what do we have to learn from this? So what do we say? We say we're in a measurable setting. Well, obviously when we're measuring success, in this case with how good AI is, it's the correct picks, right? I mean, it's pretty easy. We can see how we're doing versus how AI is doing and which one is doing better. And then the question is, well, is it doing better than average? And so if we think about what is average or what would be a naive method of picking games, well, the first is if we just said completely random. So if we just randomly picked games, how many would we expect to get right now? We've got 20. So humans are doing better than random picking. Computers are doing better than random picking. But is that the baseline measurement better than random? And the thing is, there is something better than just random picking that we all have access to. So if you go, this is from a paper from 2016. The thing I want to do, this is the distribution of correctly guessed games through a whole tournament in, I think it's ESPN's. But there's this one spike here. So this one only had 10 correct in the whole tournament. These had 90, 80 in the whole tournament. There's a spike right here. And what that spike right here is, which is what's the most commonly guessed thing, high seed wins, right? So we all have access to just picking the higher seed, right? Because in basketball, you have the 1 seed playing 16, and okay, well, 1's gonna win. 2, 15, okay, 2's gonna win. And we all have access to it, and it's a really default way to do things. How does that do this year? So if we go look at just the high seed wins, also 37 correct. So if somebody had absolutely no understanding of basketball or data or anything, if they just said the better team, according to the bracket, wins, right now it's doing better than every human that we did, and as good as AI is. But so that kind of leads to, what is the AI doing? What the AI is doing right now is basically picking the high seed. So is there anything in there? I mean, people can do that without much thought, right? And our best AI, and better than humans even, is just picking the best thing. That's why Microsoft Copilot can do so good. Even though it has absolutely no idea what's going on, it doesn't even know what sport it's talking about, but it just looks at that bracket and just says, oh, well, this one's ranked higher, this one, the higher team wins. Higher team wins. So there's an apparent idea that AI is doing really good, right? But then if we break it down to just looking at basic facts, anybody could do this good, right? So what do we learn from this? And obviously we're not done. We need to see how that does through the whole rest of the tournament. But we do see that there is differences in AI in deployment and in performance. And it performs well, but it's functioning at about a level of an informed person, right? I mean, it's just picking the highest seed for the most part. That's all it's doing. But that doesn't mean there's not value. There still is value to it, because we took a computer system that had no information, said, go figure this out and give us results. And it gave us results that are pretty good. 37 correct is pretty good. So it gets, in this case, it's easy because we can see what the high bracket is, low bracket is. But we can talk about different topics, and at least ramps us up to a knowledge of at least a basic workable product knowledge. So when we need to deploy something, we need to talk about, and I've even used this when we talk about traffic studies on divided highways, and that's when it said, hey, go look up in North Dakota where they had oil trucks running on the reports there, on the research there. That's where we need to be looking. That's nice. There's something that we can get from AI, because it is going something from a zero knowledge to a workable product knowledge. We need to take it and build from there. It's not the complete answer, but at least it gets us somewhere really fast. We still need guidance, so we'll make up wrong answers, like putting wrong teams that are, the same teams that aren't even playing the games will win. So it will give you an answer. It won't tell you when it's just making up an answer that has nothing to do. And is there still room for improving AI? There is. The question is, in the future, I don't know if it's ever going to be able to do better than guessing just the highest seed. There's going to be a lot of improvement in the models. It's going to have to improve where you can pick the correct low seed underdogs. That's a big step. So we'll see how that goes. And the big takeaway is we need to be aware and proactive about what is on the internet and how it's going to be indexed and integrated into AI models. Because what it's doing is it's going out, taking data, synthesizing it, and giving results back. We really need to be aware of what's out there, because like Google, the authority will come through the existence of information, and this authority will be fed back into the system and will make a reinforcement loop. So what this is saying is we need to be proactive and say Garden City, Finney County is a good place for X business, for these different things, because all the AIs are doing is integrating all the data in, and then when it says, when somebody's typing where in Kansas is a good place to build beef packing, if there's already been fed that says Garden City is a good place to feed beef packing, it will regurgitate that out. And so when we have these people that have no information about where to locate a restaurant in the nation, and they're just saying, give me a list of the 25 best places to build my franchise. If we're on that list, if we can get on that list, they'll just, and we'll make the short list and we'll get something built. Which means then there'll be another there's another point of data that says, hey, that's a good place. And it'll keep on feedback looping And it could be a positive feedback loop, or it could be a negative feedback loop. If we get left out, and then you get left out, and then you get left out, and then you get left out. So we need to be really proactive about putting things out there and making sure that we're making it easy for AI bots to go out, search the topics that we think people that we want to attract and businesses that we want to attract are out there in a format that would make it easy for them to say on the response back, yes, this is a good thing. This should make your short list of where you need to check out. And so it'll make that feedback loop where the rich will get richer, the poor will get poorer, at no fault, just whatever's out there on the internet. I think it's not a slide. Yeah. So questions?
So how long will it be before there's programs that are just flooding these data centers with information, whether it be accurate or inaccurate?
I would
that
guess
will-
it's already there.
Yeah,
I
so-
would guess there's probably websites that people don't, humans don't go to that are there to influence AI and AI decisions.
So it's still gonna take humans. That's what I
It'll
was.
take-
There's still plenty of room for humans to manipulate the system, is what we're saying.
And our goal is to make the short list. When whatever new restaurant concept that wants to expand in the Midwest to say, hey, I need to locate, to make my distribution network work, I need 15 locations in Southwest or not Southwest, in the Midwest, where should I build? We need to be able to be found in that sort of search. They're still going to do the thing, but if we don't get that first search, because they're gonna use this to say, okay, I'm gonna look at Salina, I'm gonna look at Wichita, I'm gonna look at Manhattan. We need to be on that list, because then they'll do the ground research. But it's so easy right now to pare down how many cities are there in the Midwest, like 100,000 cities in the Midwest, whatever it is, maybe 50,000 or something like that. That's hard for somebody to do. A computer can easily do that. But anybody could get left out of that short list pretty easily if we don't make the information available to us. So things like our newspaper that doesn't publish stories on the web, that's years and years and years of no growth for Garden City according to the internet, right? So
What's the best way to put that information out there so that you get put in that list?
it's gonna have to be through reputable sources and places that will be indexed. So it'll look a lot like what high ranking in Google does, where it's pages and it can be new pages, but you need to have the authority on the pages. It needs to be comprehensive. It needs to have some sort of weighting, because I'm sure the AI models is taking some sort of authority into all the information it's gathering in there. And then just repetition, and then the more spoon-fed it says, like if it says Garden City is good for agriculture, that's a very direct line that AIs can pick up on if somebody's typing what is good for agriculture. And so, those sorts of things. So it needs to be out there on the internet with authority. That's why newspapers are important. That's why those sorts of pieces of web content. The economic development website is really important because that's an authoritative piece that they can integrate in, and they would feel comfortable integrating those sorts of things into their AI models.
So that statement that Garden City is a good place to do business, can't you just keep hitting that button?
But the trick that we have to do is, well, what do we want to be good at and on the short list for, and make sure we're very proactive about promoting those things. Because we could, or you could randomly do this, but Garden City is a good place for water sports. It doesn't matter if we put that there, because if we make that if that shows up when they actually do the research, it's not going to do anything, right?
Right.
So that's just a wasted opportunity to reinforce the things that we actually do want to be good at and have people look at. So it can't just be a shotgun method. It needs to be a directed and integrated way. But anyway, we'll see how good Duke does.
Interesting.
AI says good.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
Was I like at the bottom of the bracket pigs?
Well, you weren't at the top.
Somewhere in the middle.
I was like, I have no idea, so I was just.
Below Scott.
Yeah, below Scott.
I don't know if you pay attention to the ESPN brackets. You know, they have millions of people that play that. And after the first round, there was only like 120 at the end of the first round, which is
Not very,
Not
not very
very
good
good.
percentages
Yeah,
of,
not very
Yeah.
good. Okay, we're new business, since I missed the meeting yesterday, I'm gonna let Rhonda run with this.
all right, so you do have the budget worksheet in front of you. Lots of columns there, we keep track of a few years at a time on this, so, what you're looking for, really for conversation today, the most important thing to do is look at the actual 2024, the middle yellow column, and then the green column on the far right that says budget 2026. So our budget documents have to be submitted to Finney County and the City of Garden City fairly shortly. The county is requesting that they all be submitted by the end of the month, which is why this process seems to move up every year. We seem to move up the budget process, which doesn't seem like it would be a big deal, except that to accurately complete the county's documents, I actually have to do a cash accounting by hand of all of our transactions for the year. So it does get a little tough. The more they move it up, the quicker I have to dive in on the accounting each year, but that's okay, we're there. So a couple of things I do want to note for you. The $35,000 that we had budgeted in the gray column there, you see that we had $35,000 budgeted for the SBDC contract. That's the shared funds that we get for grants position. They didn't get it paid in 2024, so it looks like that went away. It didn't. We just didn't get it paid in time. So it did get paid, just in arrears. Same with the college. You see that the college is showing that on your AR report, the accounts receivable, you show that it shows Garden City paid. That's a mistake by our bookkeeper. That was 2024's. They are always a year, pretty close to a year behind on their payments. So it does look a little weird. It works. We have the money. So I did make a note on the other income, the e-communities portion of that. Those are pass-through funds. So those are funds that we apply to Network Kansas for the YEC challenge. But this number was higher last year because we were able to get a $10,000 grant for the makerspace or the downtown market hub. So, but it was just a pass-through. We're the partner with Network Kansas and e-community, so we're the one who the funds go to, and then we distribute them. So I just wanted you guys to have an understanding that that's not, money that we're putting in our pockets or buying supplies with. Those funds just go directly on to others. So I did note the areas where we did increases. They're kind of a light gray color along in that green column. Not a lot of big changes. We are not asking for any increases from our partners this year. So Finney County, City of Garden City, Community College, and City of Holcomb, we're leaving flat on the funding. And yeah, there's a couple of things that are a little bit wonky on this. Our bookkeeper, this was her first full year of doing our bookkeeping, and so there were some things that got miscategorized. So mostly dues and subscriptions. Some of those are a little bit questionable whether they should have been under dues and subscription or something else. So I've already put a process in place to improve that for this year to ensure that I'm not having to move stuff around manually off of the system. So we'll get that worked out. But other than that, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. I did include an increase for health insurance because it seems like it's always moving around. So I wanted to make sure we were in a good position there. But happy to answer any other questions you might have.
This goes to the county commissioners for.
Yeah, so, no. This is our,
This does.
this is our
Yeah.
internal budget, so this is the document that the city does get this, and we can include it with the county. The county actually has a separate spreadsheet that they have the outside agencies complete. And that is the spreadsheet that requires a full cash accounting, because if you're on an accrual basis or on QuickBooks where it lumps salaries and payroll liabilities together, you can't just run it directly over, so. But all of those documents are done as well. We also include a narrative with ours where we, highlight some of the areas from our annual report and include those in it, as well as our performance-based budgeting analysis. So how much time and money is being spent on the various goals that have been set for our organization.
So do we need a motion to approve this?
I do need a motion to approve the budget request for 2026.
I'll make that motion to approve the budget request
Okay.
for 2026.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the budgeting process. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Alright, and then quickly, Shannon and I had an opportunity to meet with a company called M-Plan. I actually got a cold call from one of their sales reps wanting to talk to me about the potential for us to sign up for their program. And my first response to them was less than exuberant, I think is the right way to say it. I explained to them that the state of Kansas contracts with M-Plan, and Shannon and I are intimately aware of that because we have had to make many corrections to data from various state agencies that tout M-Plan as the basis of their analysis. That in their defense, the fellow was like, I'm really sorry to hear that. We'd like to learn more. We'd like to talk to you about that. So it was actually very, very thoughtful of them to want to hear more. Usually they would be like, okie doke, sorry. Didn't know you knew who we were. We won't call again. So Shannon and I got to have a really good conversation with them, and actually both of us, I think both of us feel like there's some value to it, and there could be an opportunity to utilize the data, at least for a year, to get a feeling for whether or not there's an ongoing value to doing that, but more importantly, because we can see what the state agencies are seeing, and hopefully be able to solve some of those things without Shannon having to back in to all of the data that they put out. So could be really interesting. We did get a quote from them. They sent us this report that it's Montgomery County EDC, but this is one of their clients, and they just showed some of the things that they use M-Plan for in their reporting. So kind of neat. It allows you to really get more feel for how much is each job worth, how much is each visitor worth, and a little more of that spend, if you will, where we talk about, $1 comes into the community and we say it gets spent 7 times before it exits the community. Those kinds of data points are what this is looking at. And then it, I thought you were gonna sneeze. And then it actually, gives you some opportunity to use that for forecasting and showing the value of the jobs created and so forth. So, so we thought that was pretty cool. The quote, interestingly, they gave us for just Fitty County, which didn't make much sense to us. I don't know why we would only want to look at ourselves, but that would cost $8,000 for the year. But if we want to look at the whole state, that is $12,000. So we can get one county for 8 or 105 counties for 12. I think there's a value in doing the whole state. So that's our question to you is whether you think we do have the funds available in the special projects category that we could utilize to pay for this. If we find that there's value in it for our funding partners, this is a tool that we could certainly take back to the city and county and say, hey, you guys wanna pitch in on this, on this software program, because it does benefit all of us. That's how we do the Placer AI is in a partnership with the city, and, so.
You purchase it on a yearly basis.
This is for the annual,
And in your opinion, we do have the funds available?
yes, in the numbers even, not just my opinion. Yes, we do. We have funds available in the special projects budget that we can use for this. We actually have a couple of areas that we could pool funds together to do it and see what we think of it, but, I think it would be a good,
Okay,
Entertain a motion to purchase this.
I would make that motion that we do for the entire state.
Okay,
I'll second.
it's been moved and seconded to purchase it, what is it, $12,000
$12,000.
per year for this in-plan program? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay,
We're ready for a bunch of new reports.
Yeah.
all right.
I know, I can hardly wait.
Mo data.
And then you'll be telling them what they did wrong.
Yep,
And
that's
you're
the
gonna
goal.
charge them for that.
That's the goal.
They'll probably be calling you.
That's
That's
what
right.
I
Wait,
expect.
how'd you come up with that, Janet?
Inland might not, but the state of Kansas might be, it'll be interesting to see what we learn here.
Yes.
They blame a lot of this stuff that they say on implant. We talked to implant like Mama said, and implant's like, it's not us. That's the state doing something different.
Aha.
So it'll be very
Interesting.
interesting.
You're already excited.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, old business.
None.
Okay, upcoming events.
Just the Washington DC trip. There is a legislative coffee, on the 19th.
And the career day is when?
April 2nd.
Second? Okay, and that's at the exhibition building. Okay, at what time?
And in about 20 minutes, the KDOT.
I
Yeah.
think they start at 9.
9?
Yeah.
I can get you more information on that.
Okay, need for executive session?
Yeah, we'll do it, we'll make it quick.
Quick,
I think
okay.
if you could give 10 minutes to it, that'd be great.
Okay.
For client
Motion
confidentiality, I
to
guess.
go into executive session for 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
I so move.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded to go into executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.